Hey, I'm Cameron from Truckify, and today we're going to be installing a truck bed raiser on a 2025 GMC Sierra. First, you're going to start by removing your bed cover off of your truck's bed. As soon as your bed cover's off, you're good to go to start the installation. To begin, you're going to want to grab 2 of the rear end caps, the tailgate T-rails, and then the bolts you'll need, number 10 1.25" long bolts. And then you're going to want to grab 4 number 10 lock nuts and 4 number 10 flat washers. The tools you'll need, 3/8 wrench and your bit driver that you have in your kit. So next, you want to assemble your bolts into the T-rail slots with no washers. Next, you're going to want to push the bolts into these 2 holes in the end cap. It doesn't matter which way it goes on. Then grab your washers and thread the nuts onto the bolts. So next, grab your 3/8 wrench and your bit driver with an impact and snugly tighten them. Make sure to not over tighten the bolts. Next, you're going to want to do the same thing to the other end cap. So next, you're going to want to grab your side members. It follows this profile. It's best to lay them on the sides of the truck so that you can figure out where each end cap ends up. So now we're going to bolt on the end caps that we just put together. If you see, when you made it up to the aluminum, it follows the curve of the bed. And you make sure your T-slot rail is pointing inward so that your tailgate member can hook into it. Next, you're going to want to repeat the same process on the other side. Next, for the side member front end caps, we're going to figure out which one goes on which side. So you're going to want to find your closed end and then line up the T-track with the side member. After you've chosen which ones go on which side, you're going to want to take the side members off of the truck and put them on a flat surface to bolt the end caps on. After taking the side members off of the truck, you're going to want to bolt on the end caps. Next, you're going to want to find your cab member, and it follows this profile in the aluminum. Now, the cab member is usually the longest of the 2 because most beds are tapered. So find the longer one, and we'll be using that one for our next steps. Then you're going to want to grab your cab member end caps, and we're going to bolt them on to the ends of the aluminum. Make sure that the letters are facing towards you, and when you're bolting it on, pay attention to the word up, as this is important, and make sure that your aluminum, the flat side, is facing up, not the T-channel slot. Now I'm placing the side members on the truck. So now you're going to want to close the tailgate and then grab the last aluminum member that you have not touched. This will be your tailgate member. Set the tailgate member onto the top of the tailgate, making sure the flat surface is facing up. Now I'm going to flush up to the inside corner of the tailgate, making sure that it is flush all the way across. Next, you're going to want to push the side members forward or back to align the T-rail centered in the tailgate member. Make sure to do this on both sides. Next, you're going to want to grab your tailgate member end caps. These slip into the T-rail slots like so. So now you're going to want to get out your shim kit. Best way to do it is to grab your 1/8 inch shim, which is the second to smallest shim in your kit. So at the back of the truck, you're going to want an 1/8 inch gap between this end cap and the tail member end cap. So you take your 1/8 inch shim and you slip it in between these two for the time being. Now do this on both sides for an accurate measurement. Next, you're going to want to center the tailgate aluminum in between the end caps. So with an 1/8 inch shim on either side, you can tell there is only a small gap on either side between the end cap and the aluminum. You're going to want to fill this with shims. So from your shim kit, find shims that fill this gap snugly. So as you can see here, I have found an 1/8 inch shim and a 1/4 inch shim, and it fills the gaps perfectly. So now you can take off the tailgate member and put it on a flat surface so that you can screw on the end caps. Before we can screw on the end caps, you're going to want to flip the aluminum over so that the T-slot is facing up. You're going to want to take your T-slot weather strip and some soapy water and fill the inside of the track with soapy water. After the soapy water dries and you put your T-slot weather stripping in, it will be snug and it will not move around. Once you're about a quarter of the way through, you're going to want to grab a dry rag so that you can better grip the weather stripping. After you've slid in your weather stripping, you're going to want to center it in the aluminum. Make sure to not trim anything just yet, as we have to bolt the end caps on yet. Before we can bolt on the end caps, we need to screw in the indexing plungers. You're going to want to make sure that the indexing plunger is sprung out. So right on this screw bore, you're going to want to thread it into the end cap. And as you're threading it in, get it flush to the very inside of the end cap. After you've done that, you can tighten the jam nut by hand and then grab an 18mm wrench and a 13mm wrench and tighten them. Make sure you don't tighten these too tight because it will cause the spring plunger to not work. So just get them nice and snug. So we're ready to bolt on our end cap. Pay attention to up as the aluminum is backwards. Make sure the up is facing down. Then you're going to want to grab your shim and place it like so. Then you're going to want to put it onto the aluminum like that, making sure the shim is notched on the other side of the T-slot weather strip. Now we can tighten it in place. Now we can do the same thing on the other side. Now, after bolting on the end caps, you're going to want to trim your excess weather stripping. So grab a scissors And right flush to the very end of the end cap, you're going to want to take your scissors, cut. After that's all done, you can now wipe off all your excess soapy water with a rag. So now we're going to take all of the aluminum members off of the truck. And then flip them upside down so that we can stick our weather stripping on the bottom. So now you're going to want to grab your side member weather stripping, and on the side member with the end cap facing the cab, you're going to want to start at that end cap. So this weather stripping should be flush to the end of the end cap. So now peel a little bit of the paper away and then tear it off at a good distance. And then stick the end right to the end of that end cap and making sure that it is flush along this rib. Then you're going to want to unroll it, and then right towards the tail of the truck, on this end cap, you're going to want to stop just before the end cap starts. You're going to want to cut it off. So you take your scissors, and it's trimmed just before the end cap starts. Then you can start to peel off the paper. Now you're ready to stick the weather stripping on the bottom of this aluminum. So if we lay it flat, starting at this end cap again, you're going to want to get it flush, and then as you go, make sure it is tucked into this rib here. And then you're going to want to repeat this process on the other side member. So the final piece of weather stripping that we need to apply is the cab weather strip. And this goes along the front of the bed on this surface. So I've started by peeling the paper away from the first part of it. I'm going to tear some of it off, and then we're going to start on one end and lay it out like this. And then on the end that you're starting with, make sure the weather stripping is centered in between this member and butted up against the plastic bed cap. Next, you're going to want to move to the other end and trim off the excess weather stripping, making sure that you're trimming off flush to the start right before the plastic bed cap starts. Next, we're going to finish peeling the paper off of the glue track. Then finally, we can stick the weather stripping onto this front member. Make sure that it is butted up to the plastic bed cap, and make sure that it is centered in this front member. Now you're going to want to stack your side members on the bed rails of your truck. Next, you're going to want to grab your tail member and stack it into the side members. After the tailgate member is in, you're going to want to latch the index plungers on each side. This will lock the tailgate member in from coming up. Next, you can close the tailgate. So after the tailgate is closed, you're going to want to get it aligned and flush to the very inside corner of the tailgate on both sides. So after the tailgate is aligned with the tailgate member, you're gonna wanna grab your cab member. Make sure that the flat surface is facing up. Now get it centered in between the two side members, making sure the side members are all the way pushed out to the outsides of the truck. Once the cab member is centered in between the two side members, you need to fill the gaps right here with shims. So after that's all done, we're going to want to make sure our cab member is flush with the very front of the truck bed. So right now we have to pull it in a little bit to get it perfectly flush with the front of the truck bed. Our goal is to mirror the truck bed with the truck bed razor. So everything on the inside dimensions has to match. Now we're going to bolt it together using 3 number 10 bolts. See, I'm making sure to put a washer on the bolt side as well as the nut side. Next, you can line up your shim. Making sure your cab member is still flush with the front of the bed. And then with your bit driver and a 3/8 wrench, you can tighten the bolts. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, making sure to put a washer on both sides of the bolt. So now I've laid out 6 clamps evenly along the aluminum member. So once you space them correctly, you're going to want to grab the pinch clamp in your kit. Now start on one side, and towards the end of the bed, you're going to want to clamp the pinch clamp right next to the clamp next to it. You're going to want to get it pretty tightly. This will suck the side member out so that your bed cover fits correctly. Because the plastic sometimes has a gap between it that you need to get rid of. So then after you've done that, you can tighten the bottom bolt or the middle bolt on your clamp. You're going to want to get this pretty tight. So next, you can move to the other side. So take off the clamp and then move to the other side of the truck bed. So towards the end, just like I did that on the other side, put the pinch clamp right next to the clamp on the end and tighten it down. Next, you can tighten the clamp right next to it. Finally, you can remove this clamp. Now you're ready to tighten all the rest of the clamps on the truck bed. So after you've tightened this middle bolt, you're going to want to tighten the top bolt. So thread it up until it touches. Once you feel that it touched, give it a quarter turn. And that is all you need. You do not need to tighten this bolt. It is just for added support. So now we're going to do the same thing on all the rest of these clamps. So now we're ready to put in the bottom bolts. This stabilizes the truck bed raiser because if you have tie-down anchors, it will keep it from being able to move in. So you start with the bolt, thread it in by hand. Then, after that, you can thread it in with the impact, and then take your swivel end and thread it into there. Thread it in all the way until it touches. As soon as the bolt touches, you're good. There's nothing else you have to do. You don't have to tighten this at all. Just make sure that as long as it touches the side of the bed, that's all you need. Now for the bottom bolts, remember that there's 2 lengths of bolts in your kit. Choose the one that fits the best to fill this gap. All right, now we are done clamping the truck bed raiser. At this point, you are ready to install your tonneau cover back onto the truck bed raiser. You can follow the factory installation instructions for your tonneau cover because the truck bed raiser is essentially a mirror of the actual truck bed. So all of the clamps and everything will reattach right onto the truck bed raiser. I'm Cameron from Truckify. I hope your installation was successful. Give us a call if you have any questions. We're always here to help.